The Northern Corridor, a strategic arterial lifeline connecting East Africa and the world. Notorious for accidents and traffic deaths along its difficult and dangerous route, they call it the Devil's Highway. But today, as the ITF and its affiliates lead the fight back against AIDS and the deadly HIV virus, the Northern Corridor has become a highway of hope. The Northern Corridor runs 1,200 kilometers from Mombasa in Kenya to Kampala in Uganda. From there it feeds into southern Sudan, Rwanda, Burundi, Congo DRC and northern Tanzania. Like many transport corridors in the world, it has become a notorious HIV hotspot. The virus courses through weighbridges, truck stops and border crossings, threatening thousands of truckers and entire communities who live and work on the highway. Uganda was once the epicenter of the HIV/AIDS pandemic. It was here that the killer disease was first confronted. HIV infection in the general population has fallen to 6%, but amongst transport workers, infection and the risk of infection is much higher. Kampala's inland container ports and the truck stop of Mbuya are typical HIV hotspots.
From the time I realized I was HIV positive, it was in '94. And by then I lost 2 ladies. As per now, to 2006, I've got 9 ladies whom I've lost. 9 ladies. And I'm married to 2 women. They also are the same HIV positive. We go somewhere where there are ladies. We go there, drink. Okay, in the first presence, your mind's not on ladies, but after getting drunk, you end up into such a mess. You regret when it's in the morning already. Every after the 3rd bottle, you end up into a mess. You're already in love with that woman. Like now, there's no place that is supplying us with sickness like these places where trailers are, borders, boundaries, and parking for trailers. It's alcohol, these drinks, the wine spirits, and these local brands that are finishing up with us. As to what happened to me, I would comment about my truck drivers to avoid drinks. That's only. Any alcohol. I've got my uncles, my friends who are working with trucks, but they are anti-alcoholic. They don't take anything. They're existing and they're negative. I who entertained with the drinks, I ended up with that result.
ITF affiliates, like Uganda's Amalgamated Transport and General Workers Union, are driving the fight against HIV/AIDS. Not only here in Uganda, but around the globe.
Truck drivers have been mostly demonized. In fact, one person in Uganda said, these people pass through our town and the only thing they offload onto the public is HIV/AIDS. However, this is not true at all. Most of these truck drivers are people who are God-fearing, are people who, like us, believe in their own safety.
Kenyan truck driver Christopher Ogutu speaks for most of his fellow African workers when he says,
we are not all equal. we are not all equal. When you are traveling, we meet all this temptation. It's true. So need some patience, and we need some guidance so that we stay strong. Sometimes we make it, sometimes we defeat it. So ours is to try our level best so that we may keep away from this killer disease.
Uganda's Amalgamated Transport Union has been campaigning against HIV/AIDS on the Northern Corridor since 1999. Their approach is holistic, enlightened and community-based.
Well, truck drivers have a life to protect. First, they have their lives to protect, but they also have families. They must protect their families. So the message simply is that they have to protect themselves as they pass through these communities. They should not expect only the community to protect them. They should also protect themselves and also have a social responsibility to protect the communities.
Around 40 million people in the world are living with the HIV virus. In 9 severely affected sub-Saharan countries, life expectancy at birth has dropped below 40 years. Worldwide, 3 million people die of AIDS every year. 90% of them in poor developing countries like Kenya. Trapped between grinding poverty and underdevelopment, the wealth of nations passes them by. Life hangs in precarious balance, but the people endure unbroken. Night falls on the Northern Corridor. All along the route, hundreds of bars and clubs are throbbing with business. An estimated 7,000 female sex workers are here to entertain and entice the 8,000 truck drivers who work the highway. Long away from home and without decent facilities, truckers unwind after a tough working day. But truck drivers are not the only potential clients. These include policemen, soldiers, and other migrant workers who are away from their families. These are the breeding grounds of HIV/AIDS and other sexually transmitted diseases. Commercial sex workers may charge clients as little as 150 Kenyan shillings, some $2 American, for short-time sex. But there are sure signs that the safe sex message is finally getting through. Long delays at way bridges and border crossings, like Malaba on the Kenya-Uganda frontier, make truck drivers and their assistants especially vulnerable to HIV infection. In May this year, Malaba became the first one-stop border post in East Africa.
Transport industry, in fact, contributes more than 30% of the GDP in Kenya. So you can see the vital part that truck drivers, the railway, and other transporters and the port also play. So we want them to do good business and we want them to do good business when they are healthy. This is a message we are emphasizing because we hope to break this vicious circle. So that we can see now rates, the infection rates dropping among the truck drivers, just as it's dropping in the countryside, in the other places in the country. We must accept that our roads are not one of the best, but even more, the problem is the border point, the crossing, and that's why we are here. We want to have one-stop kind of border crossing, so that they don't have to stay here for less than 2 or 3 hours. That is our ultimate aim. And if this happens, then obviously they don't have to spend so much time on the road. And if they don't have to spend so much time on the road and from their families, we also expect that the rate of infection will go down.
At Malaba, the Amalgamated Transport Workers Union has established a peer counselling group among commercial sex workers and the vulnerable low-income community. It is one of 4 community associations supported by the union on national highways and underscores a commitment to gender equality and empowering women. Makokoda is run by Lydia, Grace and Florence, 3 of Malaba's estimated 300 commercial sex workers. All 3 of the women are HIV positive. Widowed by AIDS, they moved to Malaba out of sheer economic desperation to feed their families.
Here in Malaba is where truck drivers pass. Everybody whose husband dies in the village has to come this way to look for the fittest. We have orphans. Even I now am living with 7 children. 5 are orphans, 2 are mine. As I found myself positive, I thought twice. I'm having grown-up girls. And also, I'm seeing these young girls who are on the street. Now I thought twice, if I don't educate these young girls here, are they also going to put on the same shoe am I? They are still young. They have not seen their generation.
When Lydia found out she was HIV positive,
wow, I was so shocked. Then from there I became a bad-mannered woman. I came and spreaded the whole whatever in the Malaba. I said that I'm not going to die alone. Then later on, as I've been telling you, that Amalgamated Transport Workers Union came in and boosted us. They taught us on behavior change. Since 1998 up to today, I've been protecting myself with men. Whenever you say you are going to give me 100,000, we play unprotected sex. And you are going to give me 10,000 Ugandan money, I will take that 10,000 and you protect yourself. It is a must. If you don't want, I leave you.
May I tell them this Uganda of today is very delicate. As human beings, we have those feelings, we have the nature, but we have to be careful with our lives. Because some of us, we have children to cater for, and even some who are still young, they need also to see their future. So when you are playing sex, you have to be very careful.
Despite the looming threat of privatisation and mass job losses, Kenyan railway workers and management on the Northern Corridor continue their fight against HIV/AIDS.
Sasa tunashukua vizuri. Tusicheke kwa sababu ni maisha hii na kiga maugonjwa.
Majority of our workers actually they travel from one place to another, which means most of the time they are away from their spouses. And because it has been proved that human beings love sex so much, at times even more than food, and the loneliness that they get when they move to faraway stations, they have to engage in sexual activities. So we have to sensitize our staff about the proper use of condoms. We have to create confidence in the use of condoms so that they can use them to protect themselves from these diseases. In the past, we have really lost a lot of our employees. And we know, and service industry like railways, you really have to train somebody. It is a very expensive undertaking, and it will be a very big loss when we lose our employees as a result of HIV and AIDS.
I believe that the union is, like I said, like in a family. You see, the father is the closest member of that family. Even at work, the union, they are the close people that are there having contact with workers. They are the most close people that can tell people about HIV/AIDS. They are the most close people that can bring about that sensitization of AIDS. Unlike the NGOs who are a bit far away, they can't come into contact with workers. But the union, they can arrange themselves anytime they need to see workers. We've got them at the ground levels. We've got them at branch levels. We also have them at the higher ranking, so they can reach the workers, and they're the ones that should take that initiative to tell workers about this and to let workers know on how to protect themselves, on how to live. If you have got AIDS yourself, how are you supposed to live? Because it's upon me and you to live long in order to take care of our families.
Back on the Northern Corridor, Kenyan truckers face some of the toughest driving conditions in the world. Breakdowns, accidents and violent robbery are common features of life on the road.
The life of a truck driver is hard, isn't it? I mean, you have low wages.
Low wages, roads are not all that good, thugs on the way. All those what rubbish you see.
You have what, thugs on the way?
Thugs on the way.
Tell me about that then. What happens to you on the roads with the thugs?
There are thugs like now if you are living here, say going to Nairobi, there are certain places which you cannot drive at night. You can't drive at night.
What happens to you?
You'll be beaten. Wages are poor, you see. Roads are poor, wages are poor. So, what to do?
And what about corruption from the police? And the authorities?
That I don't know. That I don't know.
So you're telling me there's no corruption in Kenya?
Maybe it's there, but I don't know. For me, I'm not corrupt. I don't know what I don't know about. Corruption. You see.
But harassment, corruption and extortion by police and revenue authorities are realities faced by truck drivers and other transport workers. Often it is the driver and not the truck owner who is blamed for the poor condition of a vehicle, the expiry of licenses and overloading. Innocent drivers have been thrown into jail and abandoned by callous bosses who put profit before the welfare of their workers. On long, desolate stretches of the Northern Corridor, especially where speeds slow to a crawl because of the road's terrible condition, truckers are targets for armed gangs who rob, beat and even kill. We met truck driver David Matuku, who told us his story.
I was just driving from Nairobi to Mombasa, then near Mutitwandei there. It was around 7 o'clock p.m. Now I just saw the roadblock, but it was for thieves. We were beaten. They took everything we had, the little money we had, then they ran away.
Terrible is the word most often used by Kenyan truckers to describe the condition of their roads. Only 18% of the highway system is classified as in good condition. And heavy trucks, sometimes heavily overloaded, take a destructive toll on infrastructure that is underfunded and very rarely built to specification. Experts say it would cost around $1 billion to bring the roads up to standard, 10 times the sum currently allocated. Last year, traffic accidents leapt by almost 16%, and 2,500 people were killed on the nation's highways. Nairobi, one of the richest cities in Africa, necklaced by the biggest slums in Africa. Kenya's economy grew by 5% last year, but the country needs still higher growth to escape the trap of poverty and dependence. Neoliberal economics and globalization have only added fuel to the fire of poverty and HIV/AIDS burning among the people. Kenyan truckers say they have the worst pay and conditions in Africa. They earn around 10,000 shillings a month, about $150, and are given a small stipend for average journeys that often stretch to extra days on the road because of delays and breakdowns. Kenya has 70,000 licensed truckers, and the transport sector generates around 12% of the country's wealth. But for a decade, the government has denied the truckers legal trade union recognition.
Would it be fair to say that the formation of a legal, recognised trade union would help you step up the fight against HIV/AIDS?
Definitely, yes. This is going to change many things, and the government will recognize us as a union, and we will have to work together with other transport unions across Africa in the Northern Corridor. And I think if we join hands together with other unions, and we have a strong union and we have the power of the union, and this will push the government to understand and to know that truckers have rights. The HIV and AIDS is a problem that is globally affecting people. This is not a problem of truckers alone. It's a problem of the people living along the highway corridor and the community at all. The transport owners have also a major part to play, because the transport owners, some of them are so selfish, they just think of how to make quick money. So they don't give the truckers time to go to see their wives and their families. So you come all the way from Kampala, you come to Mombasa, you load again, you go to Kampala, and Kampala you load again, come back to Mombasa. So the transport owners also play a major role in making AIDS vulnerable to these truckers.
Mombasa's port, the beginning and the end of the Northern Corridor. One hopes its ultra-modern facilities represent the future of East Africa's transportation system. Last year, the port handled over 13 million tons of freight, and transit cargo totaled 3.5 million tons.
Landlocked countries like Uganda, Rwanda, how can they get the cargo into the country? They can't fly every day by plane. So they all depend on their import and export through the ports of Mombasa or Dar es Salaam or Tanga. So Kenya Port, Mombasa Port has been very, very important. That is why you see every developing partner wants to help the North Corridor.
Barely a mile away, within sight of the port and alongside the Northern Corridor, sits the slum of Bahati in Mombasa's Changamwe district. HIV/AIDS has ravaged the community, but the community is fighting back. These are the children of AIDS, some of them orphans of truck drivers.
Do you feel in a way that you can turn this whole crisis of HIV/AIDS into something positive? Is it possible to do that?
It is. Actually, the HIV/AIDS scourge has turned people to be very responsible people. And the fact that very many people are reacting to the situations on the ground is also changing the way people are receiving development in itself. That the development agenda is now easier to drive to the communities, to the people as individuals. People are more receptive, people know their responsibilities, people have learned even to be able to advocate. So we think that the crisis, although it's negative to the people, but we also think that it has brought an understanding, it brought an opening for people to take responsibility over their own livelihoods. We also want to create a society with a change, that these children are future of this village, and therefore if they are not taken care of, they are left out, then it means that we are going to continue being poor for the rest of their lives.
For the people of Africa, those who live on the other side of the tracks, poverty and AIDS are inextricably linked. The higher the level of poverty, the greater the risk of HIV infection. Little 4-year-old Adiza Akoch is HIV positive. Inside this crumbling mud house, her mother Caroline is dying of AIDS.
Siwezi kujua vile alikuwa anaenda hiyo masafari yako. Najua alikuwa mtu wa masafari. Alikuwa anafanya hapa port na hii magari makubwa haya ya kusafiri. Saa nyingine ya kubeba mizigo. Sasa huko anaenda, naweza kukaa kama wiki mbili ama ndiye anarudi. Sasa vile tulikutana tukaoana, sikujua wala sikumuelewa njia zake zote. Sasa niliona tu anakuwa mgonjwa na anakufa. Hata tukajaribu kwenda hospitali tukashindwa. Sasa akakufa, kamzika. Mimi naweza kuambia nao pia wakuwe na roho ngumu, waangalie vile wanaweza kukaa na kuishi, kutembea vile wanatembea hiyo masafari yao. Wafuate vile maneno ambao inasungumuziwa, vile maneno inaenda.
HIV/AIDS is not just confined to Africa. It confronts transport workers around the world. Amid the desperation, life goes on. The mighty northern corridor flows as a river to the ocean. In the fight against HIV/AIDS, perhaps we can all learn something from the highway of hope.
You tend to ignore that person that is having AIDS. You want to repel, go against him. But then we, as workers here, we are supposed to take each and every person as a family. I personally can help him. I can give him hope. I can be the very best person and the very best friend that can make him live much more longer and be happy and feel like the rest of the people that don't have the virus.